Welcome to our channel. Here you're going to find lots of ways to help you to deal with asbestos. I've been in the industry for some 17 years, so I know a thing or two about the subject. So what I'd like to do really is, without any further ado, is to get stuck in and let's see how we can help you with all the different problems that you come across when it comes to asbestos. So let's get started. So here we are. We're going to look at a property and see a few areas where we may find asbestos. My name is Nai. I'd like you to follow me. Let's go. Here's a typical property. What we found here is, of course, on the door frames. Very often you'll find that the bitumen that's used as packing in the door sometimes will have asbestos in it, but these are UPVC. They've been changed at some point, so of course there's unlikely to be an issue with these doors because they're relatively new, and of course that applies to the windows outside too. Up here we have, in this case it's just textured paint. Normally in properties, I would say in the 70s, 80s, 90s would have Artex up there, and of course that would need to be tested. The stairs is wooden, so we won't expect problems there, as is the floor. As you can see, the floor has good old floorboards and they'll polish up really well. Let's have a look inside the main lounge of the property. There's a chimney breast there, and of course the chimney breast has likely a board maybe of asbestos behind that vent, so we'll be taking that off and having a good look to see what we can find in there. And here we have the back door again. You still have the issues with the asbestos. The black on the floor there could well contain bitumen from previous use. Here we have it's a heater, yes, storage heater. We'll check to make sure that it's safe by typing in the serial number and see whether the manufacturer used asbestos. In this case, I'm almost certain they did. Then we have a look at the front window again. We will check the seals. In this case, we know there's PVC, no worries. Now there used to be a doorway here. You can see the lines where the door was, so we'll be poking our hole in there to have a look to see if an asbestos liner was used. Okay, so we've done this room. Let's take a little wander now under the stairs, because that's where sometimes we find some asbestos. Now, it's usually, you'll find it nailed or tacked to the underside of the stairs as a fire break designed to stop the fire getting upstairs. Also, we have an electrical panel here, and very often you'll find that behind the electrical panel will be a little sheet of asbestos again to try and hold back any fire that might have started there. Now we move into the kitchen. The kitchen has several areas where you would find asbestos. Again, in this case, we've got polystyrene tiles. They're horrible. If they catch fire, the smoke is extremely dense, and I'm sure the house owner will be removing that. Oh, look at this. We have a sink. Now in the sink, we have an anti-drumming pad at the bottom, and that very often is there on most of the older sinks. There she is. A nice piece of asbestos pad. So that sink would need to be condemned and disposed of as asbestos waste. Then we have our walls to make sure we touch and tap all the walls. The doors, make sure that no liners have been put on, once again as fire breaks, so they would need to be checked. Again, we look around to the toilet area. Now in this case, there's no bath, but if there was a bath, maybe the bath panel on the front is an asbestos sheet. That would need to be checked. And of course the toilet, if that was a dark brown toilet, then it's more likely to be something called Bakelite. Bakelite was used very often as toilets, and you can tell because they're thick. Then we move into what you could call a conservatory, I'm not sure. There's some ply ceilings there. We'd probably want to pull that down, have a look, see what's behind there, because we don't want any big surprises. And then we go to the outside of the property. Again, it's a little terrace property, so long, thin garden. And at the bottom, you see there's some outbuildings. Now, very often, you'll find that the roof on an outbuilding is a corrugated roof, and that would be chrysotile asbestos. So we would need to double check that to make sure nothing's been taken off and hidden around the back. But it looks all timber to me, so we'll inspect that thoroughly later. And here we have our dubious conservatory. Looks like it might fall down in the next rainstorm. But notice there's putty in these windows. The putties very often can contain asbestos too. So those frames would have to be disposed of as asbestos waste if there was putty involved. Around the back of the property, what can we see here? Well, we've got the downpipe here. But in this case, it's steel, well, cast iron, so that's nothing to worry about there. And of course the guttering also at the top. Sometimes that can be asbestos, but in this case, it's metal. Once again, the window frames, the windowsill, even though there's new UPVC windows, underneath that windowsill could well be an asbestos one, so we'd have to check that too. So there's a quick whistle-stop tour of some of the places you'll find asbestos in a property. Well, that's just an overview of a few areas where you may well find asbestos. I mean, there are a lot more places, hundreds of places where you might find it. Maybe in the next video I'll make a list of all the places, or at least a lot more places where you may well find it. In the meantime, please keep safe.